Welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever had that feeling where you're just going through the motions, like the world around you feels a little bit off, a little disconnected? Well, today we are diving into a really powerful way of thinking that helps you find your way back to what feels real and true. We're going to learn how to find what our source material calls your home base.
So let's just start right there, with the feeling that, let's be honest, probably hits home for a lot of us. It's that nagging sense that you're a little lost, or that you keep running into things that just feel, well, fake. It's a feeling that can make you feel pretty alone, like you're not quite clicking with everything that's going on around you.
And the material we're digging into today has a really fascinating take on why that happens. It suggests that this feeling of being an outsider, it comes from seeing the world without a connection to some kind of universal truth. Without that shared center, we can feel out of step, which makes it super hard to genuinely connect with people.
Okay, so to figure out how to get back on track, we first have to understand the world that's creating all this static. Let's just call it the noise. And in our first section, we're going to jump right into what that actually means.
The source we're looking at has a name for this noisy, everyday world, the secondary circle. You could also think of it as your home range. Basically, the reality we experience through our five senses. It's the world of things you can see, touch, and hear, the tangible stuff that often comes and goes.
And when you really break it down, you see this sensory world is all about the ups and downs. One day you're getting praise, the next day blame. And because it's constantly hitting our senses, if this is the only place we live, life can start to feel pretty shallow, We can lose our balance. The real trap here is getting so caught up in all that noise that we completely forget there's anything else.
So if that's the secondary circle, what's the alternative? And that brings us right to our next section, where we're going to look at a much bigger, more complete picture of what reality can be.
And boom, here it is. This chart lays out the whole concept so clearly. On one side, you've got that temporary home range, the world of just knowing facts and feeling separate. But on the other side, you have the home base, or the primary circle. And this is the world of timelessness, of unity, and a really deep sense of what's real and valuable. It's the huge difference between just knowing something and actually being. And this is the part that you really gotta get. The home base isn't a physical spot on a map. It's a shared, universal center of meaning that every single one of us can tap into. It's the source of unity that lets us connect on a level that's way deeper than the superficial stuff. And really, it's what gives us that feeling that we truly belong.
Okay, this all sounds pretty amazing, right? But how do you actually do it? How do we start to shift our attention away from the constant noise of that secondary circle and tune in to the clear, solid signal of our home base?
The source makes such a powerful point here. See, just collecting facts or knowing a bunch of stuff can actually become a burden if it doesn't change you. The whole goal is to turn that knowledge into a state of being. It's about living the truth, not just having a collection of it on a shelf somewhere. And here's a really beautiful way to think about what that universal being feels like. Imagine you smell a rose. It doesn't matter what language you speak or where you're from, that experience is immediate and everyone gets it. It just bypasses all the intellectual gymnastics. That's the kind of direct, resonant truth we're talking about with the home base.
All right, so let's get practical. How do we actively start practicing this art of reconnection? How do we actually find our way back to that center?
So the source gives us this simple but really profound practice. It's almost like a breathing exercise for your soul. You start by inhaling, imagining you're taking in everything that's good and sweet. Then you exhale, letting go of all the negativity, the blame, the bitterness. And this process allows what the source calls tajalli, which is like a beaming light, to bring shifa, which means healing. The last step is to fill yourself up with good, or tali, to find your center, your balance, which is called mizan.
Now, the source also points out that having a guide or a teacher on this journey can be a total game changer. They kind of act as a facilitator, giving you what's called a wasila, a strong cable or a connection to the source. They get the unique challenges of our times and can help us steer around them to find that feeling of authenticity again.
So what's the payoff here? What happens when we actually succeed in building and keeping this connection to our home base? Well, we start to live a truly integrated life.
And let's be super clear. This isn't about running away from the physical world. Not at all. It's about being in the world of the senses, but staying firmly tied to your universal center. It's like you have this strong cable connecting you back, so you just don't get lost in all the noise.
And this leads to a really cool idea called niche construction. The basic idea is that just like an animal helps shape its own habitat, we can start to co-create a reality that's in harmony with our true universal nature. So we're not just passengers anymore. We become active builders in our own world.
And you have got to remember this point. The source really emphasizes that all the outward stuff, the teacher, the practice, the guide, that's just 1% of the work. The real journey, the other 99%, is all about building that connection inside you, which is always, always available, no matter what.
So when you boil it all down, it really comes to a choice of where you put your focus. Our modern lives are just full of these little screens, right? Our phones, the constant distractions, all the chatter of that secondary circle. But there's also big screen, that vast, timeless reality of the home base. And the question this leaves us with is a simple one. Which screen are you choosing to watch?